Welcome back to my lovely HP community and the 5D collective. And anyone who is new, here we get to talk about how amazing it is to use practices and skills that, well, they help us grow confidence and they handle our own inner world, gets handled with a stress, meaning not bad stress, meaning our social engagement system, meaning mindfully living and loving is really awesome. Plus the spiritually component part, yeah, so 5D Mystic here, integrating it all right now. And please do remember that you can handle change without fear. Doesn't mean you don't have the fear in and of itself. It's just you don't have the bad stress. So your body will still do the normal things it does. And the reality is you will only become familiar with this once you're out of being in a modulated embodiment, which I know all about, being out of that, because you learn as you go along, to be a human who's internally securely attached, and then to use words that other smart human beings teach you, then to find out how many people don't know how to do it. So the ventral vagal state for me is quite easy peasy, and the reason is, well, I come with love, God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, but I also come with a mom and a twin. And that's something that I'm going to say, determined, come on in. So my first 3 years of life, most amazing. Now, my biggest motivator, fear. Lo and behold, meaning I want physical certainty, and that's okay because my body's smart enough to know we want to breathe. But breathing is easy because our body, even though I need to remind myself every now and then to breathe because I hold my breath. We all will have known of things as we move along our courses. What courses? Attachment trauma, yes, but not because we are people who are still with child parts that have been disowned. No, I don't have any disowned. In fact, again, my 3-year-old, she's right here. So knowing emotional maturity and inner security, I don't think needs a reward, right? I'm just going to say determined, thanks so much. And God told me to mind my own business about the 0-1-year-old. So it's not hard to become what you can be. It is a choice you make by living and loving mindfully as you. Some of us are also living spiritually in the true spiritual process, whether it's with God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, or people who come in from other arenas will know of one thing. You're all my brothers and sisters. You all can access your spiritual process, which is why you don't need spiritual boundaries. And anybody who's talking about trauma dumping could go and use their own therapist so they could get out of basically being an asshole and what is called projecting their teenage attitude, and really not noticing that if you're attracting a type of energy, especially within the mystic community, you'd think that they'd realize, I'm attracting something. But see, I have an answer for that one. Patrick Tiahan, come on in. One of the signs of childhood trauma, and that is where people do not bother to go to people like Patrick Tiahan, but they go and create stories because they get to have clairs. Again, we can all connect to the energetic sphere. We are all empowered feminines and masculines know this. There's not man or woman, but empowered feminines and masculines know that we can all access the sphere of Akash and God and anything and everyone. And that's why, now dare you're all liars. No, actually, the only ones who want to be chosen ones are the very same ones who don't know how to put mindfulness into practice. Like the Zen master tells you that you cannot have enlightenment. So anytime you notice somebody who is not living emotional depth and enjoying the emotional plane, you know that you got a person who's dragging a pain point around. So the narratives of the spiritual ego, what I've noticed is 4D ain't going anywhere, nor is 3D, because they don't want to go to Patrick Tiahan. And notice that the fact that they continue to have certain types of energetic exchanges is an indication of them not knowing healthy boundaries. Because, it's when you know healthy boundaries that you notice it's not hard to make friends, not hard to actually have relationships. It's not hard for me to believe in love. Just because some people, in the past were not really, I don't know, can't I be imperfect and flawed too and be considered a villain? So empowered inner child adults, we know we can be a villain, and we're like, yeah, I know that. There's no Lucifer though. So sorry, there are people who lack self-awareness, accountability, and regulation, so much so that they go on screen. These lovely women have been sharing, a couple of them, how they're going to be empresses. So in one equation we got, he's going to buy me the 12-karat golden ring I want, however that works, and he's going to work for it, and he's going to want to work for it. And this reminded me of a coach, as a woman coach for the attachment styles, not categories. And she's like, I'm going to help make your man exactly the way you want him to be. And I'm like, wow, is that a puppy that you're getting by any chance? And really, I feel bad for those puppies, because the fact that they have to be trained. Sure, yeah, you know what? I'm pretty sure if they were out in the wild, they would be very much in disagreement with you, because, it's an animal that doesn't want to be contained and controlled. The only reason a human being will want to contain and control anything is because they don't have contain and control. They don't have self mastery. They don't have self joy. They don't have self with a flexible brain yet. So they're thinking it's cool and okay. I mean, really, again, an animal is free to be an animal. So the fact that it might have been domesticated, sure, now it knows domestication, but don't tell me that they want to have. No, no. If they have to have a leader of the pack, then let's let them do it organically. Always interested me how people would like to say that they know how it is to be something that you're not. You're not a dog. You won't ever be a dog. So you can keep talking to the 3-year-old. I'm just to say, sure, the experts of that subject matter and of that profession have a passion. But I'm going to tell you, if I were a dog, oh, yeah, I'd pretty much be like, fuck that shit. I'm going back to nature, because, nature, again, has its own ecosystem. So they don't use human brain. They don't have spite, envy, jealousy, insecurity. So they don't rule their pack based on a lack of. And when they do have, the ones who are taking, Robert Sapolsky, come on in. I forget what his study was, but he shares a study. And when he's sharing it, I'm like, yep, that's how life works. So the asshole baboons who were being stingy, they died off because they ate all the poisonous food. That kind of has, nature is not brutal. It actively keeps the ecosystem. So the only ones who don't understand that there's no brutality, meaning that, yeah, humans can be assholes. Guess why? They don't go and get their therapy. And that's why, making a big deal out of it? Yes, I am, because actively every weak person is a mean person who has underestimated their own self and has allowed themselves to carry on a story and or more, and I get to see it all over YouTube, and I'm here to say, nope. As Jesus said, forgive for they do not know. And as Stephen Porges pointed out, yeah, biologically rude people don't know that they have trauma stuff going on and that they're living out their 0-8-year-old. I do, which is why you don't date anyone who is emotionally insecure, immature, and wants somebody to cater to all their needs, or vice versa. What the fuck is that? So, men, women, and theys who are emotionally mature, they navigate here to IHP land and elsewhere, where we're like, yeah, it's not hard to become what you can be, because you get to choose it by living and loving every day mindfully, which means consciously, which means bilateral and vertical, and then taking self-awareness, accountability, and regulation skills seriously, because really, I didn't know these words either, but I did know about mindset. And anybody who will say, it's not mindset, well, it is, because the bottom up is through this. So the minute your thoughts are not in your handle, and they're used just such a little sword, a small little sword is what that is when you meet unimpressive masculines, which will always be distorted feminines. When you find an empowered masculine, and I'm an empowered feminine, so for me, masculines are always going to be, I'm sorry masculines, unimpressive, because in one way, shape, or form, what comes into the mix is their ego. And it's not that I don't have one, it's that I stand here with Maria's name, and so ego, Maria, does not matter in the large scheme of things, because I'm not here to impress. Okay, so the ego tends to, and that's why masculines are unimpressive, because they will betray based on nothing more than an actual egoic left brain alone fear, and not have the capacity to notice that they're first bottom up and to pause. So while I am first feelings and then thoughts, which is what I try to let you all know, my gut rules me. The words just come based on the sound. In fact, that's probably, and no, that's why I use words Maria's way. But the 5D Collective, we grow confident and empowered because we live mindfully and spiritually. That's all of the 5D Collective. That's the people who will be coming here. And whether it's Robert Sapolsky and you have no free will, or as God told me to mind my own business and to allow me to know that the human suffering is a choice, yeah, I know you do have free will, because there's smart human beings out there letting you all know that there's good stress and not bad. And then there's assholes who tell you stay in your threat response because they think bad stress is good. which is hilarious, but no, it's not. It's just normal that the 7 and 14 charming are pulling, no, they're not pulling the wool over the eyes of the insecurely attached, ignorant human being who will come to me and say, excuse me, you're confusing shit, or I found it hard to believe the first 2 years of life mean anything to my maladaptive patterns of behavior, which is drugging, drinking, fucking, and we don't need to use promiscuity because the reality is it's not Lucifer. Nope, it's not Lucifer. And the fact is, when you say, hey, neuroscience proves no demons, everybody needs something to believe. No, no, it's not about belief. And that word, too. People like to use the word belief. Makes me laugh. I have to use the word. I will say there's data and then there's stuff. I can believe in whatever I want to believe. I believe in you. Doesn't mean you believe in you. And what I know is I believe in me, and that's really all that matters, to be in good company. Healthy self-worth people do not surround themselves with assholes for a reason. I don't deserve to be treated like a piece of shit, and my mother taught me how to be respectful while I'm being disrespected, and I learned it, and I was a 3-year-old saying, you can't spank me. So there's determined right here. So when you can stand up as an inner child adult and say, fuck you, when you're grown up, no, you don't do that. You never say fuck you like that. You just look at somebody and they know. No, they won't. You don't hang out with people that disrespect you like that. You see what I'm saying? So nobody has anything to whine about with their past relationships, or to have somebody cater to them in such a way that is just absurd. I saw another woman who's talking about, yeah, I came out from the dirt basically, diamond in rough, dated shitty people. The new partner is going to be better than every one of them. And it sounds mean. Yeah, it's not about mean. It's that you don't really have your own self in the forefront. If you did, you'd be compassionate. My unresolved trauma is what I played out for all these years and my suffering. And now I'm thinking still that somebody's going to come and save me. And that's still your 0-1-year-old who's wanting to be saved in a way that just has made a bunch of stories. Because now you have clairs. I mean, this is, again, spiritual ego and bypass was very uninteresting. But meantime, practices and skills. The ones that we get to use here at IHP involve mindfulness, mindset, and mindset for people who know emotional security or want it. And that's not insecurity, it's security. So you have yourself in the forefront. And you know that being yourself does involve you knowing your bottom up. So when it comes to masculines and feminines, either or, I'm an empowered feminine. What I'm going to let you know is when someone has unresolved stuff from home, it's called anger is going to come up, and spite, and a lot of shit that they're going to project towards the cue of safety that this body is, because that's what happens when a ventral vagal state is in the forefront of a person who did not get that self-regulation for co-regulating, and their body was seeking, because that's actively our mammalian heritage, and they want to make up stories about evil human beings and evil stories and evil anything. That's the way that the weak ones work, is they just use evil out of their mouth, versus no, there's Michael Stone, forensic criminologist. There you go. They all end up in prison, and I actually add the ones who don't, and then I add them all and put them near a volcano and say, yep, they can all get good therapy. And then their inner child wants to come forth, but their teenager keeps ruling with some stupid, idiotic story. So again, using mindset and mindfulness. There are those who do, and there are those who don't, like the Zen Master's laundry. And then there are those who want to just keep on pretending that they are, and I've seen too many of them in courses and with certificates that are beyond a shadow of a doubt more than I'll ever have. And with that, follow us on Fanbase, because that's where you're going to get the practical video exercises that will roll out throughout the year, and they provide you with, inner growth, again, but growing confidence and handling change without fear or bad stress. So of course fear is still part of our human makeup, because the body is always going to be prepared to protect you, and your 3-year-old is always there. But as you learn to be your own mindfully aware, accountable, regulating, bottom up, you can handle that uncertainty, because you are focusing your attention and with awareness, like, oh, look, my body is doing shit. Okay, I'm going to keep on trying. So with a good, healthy self-worth, self-soothing, and all men, women, and theys, we come together as Diego, Manny, Sid, and we support expansion of consciousness and human evolution, and not ignorance, by the way. So yeah, emotionally mature men and women, and theys, I don't know these, but I'm going to tell you, any securely attached, emotionally speaking human being is not going to say, hey, cater to my every need, buy me a 12-carat golden ring, get me this, get me that, and make me into your queen and king. What the fuck? Oh, yes, so Cinderella, so okay, have fun. So that's for those people. And for us, we're going to continue a little bit more with a little bit of what I read to you yesterday. and then we might have some more episodes. And so I talked to you about the archetypes of existence, the destroyer, sustainer, and creator, and how they work in tandem when they are presented to you in life and relationships. Okay, the choices you make can bring forth self-expansion, personal development, increased vitality and aliveness, and monetary increase in financial sustainability. That's the whole manifest, So when you find the spiritual egos and bypassers, they have a whole way of magical wands. I'm going to give you something different. And that's because I have the tangible, what happens, tower moment. Okay, so I'm going to present it. That way you can understand, because my facade friend is the perfect story for this. And there's more than that. I don't have tower moments because I'm an empowered feminine. And so I've been walking and talking like Maria has consistently chosen to do so consciously since I was an adolescent and since I was a child. Okay, so whether you want to say it's because of my relationship with God, Jesus, and Holy Spirit, which I say yes, but then again, I can also say my mother, my twin, and my first 3 years of life, and that I'm a differentiated self who didn't get broken because my mother gave me a child-centric environment and the capacity to show respect towards myself and another while that other is disrespecting me. So I don't have an issue with somebody who comes at me with a cocky ego. No, because number one means they're insecure. Number two, I'm 4'9" and my body automatically recalibrates me to protect me because it's smarter than my left mode would ever be. And three, I'm a smart human being who I don't give a shit about proving shit to anyone, especially if you're coming at me like that. You don't even know how to have an interesting interaction. You are a coward because using words and hands and or anything makes you a coward, makes you mean, makes you weak, because you don't have the intellect or emotional capacity to stand with integrity. So in all ways, shapes, or forms, I'm not impressed by an ego that is basically unimpressive. And that's where Sadhguru, he shares a quote today. If you think you're big, you become small. If you know you are nothing, you become immense. This is the beauty of being human. You can only be nothing with self-empowered confidence when you are a whole inner child adult. And as Patrick Tiahan points out, it's because you're empowered to be yourself. So somebody coming to you and stating anything, self-regulation, and that's in, again, the good stress, you stress. And therefore, you are potentially still going to have a fear response because you're bottom up. We all get nervous about things. As Dr. Daniel Siegel presented in one of my courses, he says, anytime you're getting up to move, your body gets into an energy, okay? And so that's why we all will have fear always, but the difference is being able to admit it to yourself and then being able to handle it with the data, which makes you empowered. The only people who are not empowered by data are the same ones who prefer their stories. So with that being said, I might do another episode to share really, really well the story with my friend and the archetypes, because I really want to give you that experience so that you can understand it. And so with that, we'll pause this one and I'll close it out with the 5D collective of mystics and people. We grow confident and empowered because we're living a life of meaning and connection beyond our solo self, but that's because we're living and loving mindfully and or spiritually and or really both. So that means that I can know that anytime I'm interacting with you, Maria is here, and so are you. And as Dr. Daniel Siegel presents, so I'm a differentiated self. If you're not, I am, which is why I won't be enmeshing with you, and you won't be able to hook up. And then the part of where Stephen Porges comes in, how you handle my cues of me being safe with who I am. Are you going to welcome yourself, or are you going to be reactive and actively become a Cusco, which, by the way, is just a facade human being, which is why, again, I can spot an ego a mile away, but my body will automatically be in the position that my mother taught me. You don't use your hands, you use your mouth. You present yourself, and even if they're talking down to you, remember what that means. They have no integrity. You do. You stand up, and you stand up with integrity, not with cursing or, again, very specific. And it is actually very empowering to have the humility and integrity, and that's what confidence is and empowerment. So you don't look to the past and say, let me talk shit about anyone who might have been an asshole, because the reality is any asshole is a person who has low self-esteem. They're indirect communicators. They don't have balls, and they don't even know how to regulate in their ventral vagal state, which is the saddest part ever, because really, as long as you're in a threat response for an empowered person that's 4'9", I can't do anything. You have immediately shown me that you are insecure and can't handle what is an actual, very amazing mental, emotional, and physical, intelligent, and flowing conversation, because you got shit going on that you're not even aware of as it's coming up, and you don't know how to use your mouth. I can't teach you how to use your mouth if you're not choosing to, at the very bare minimum, engage in what is an honest conversation. And so when people are not confident and they're not empowered, they do things that are not going to be impressive. That's why masculines and distorted feminines are unimpressive to an empowered feminine, because a whole 3-year-old heart will tell you whatever we want, but we'll also say, I'm sorry, we'll also hug, we won't be unapologetically anything. Anytime you meet anybody who's unapologetically anything, that's not integrity. It's called a teenager in a room, and yeah, teenagers don't know what it means to be smart because they're not bilaterally integrated. The adaptive child, when I say teenager, I'm talking about the adaptive child is leading the way. Teenagers get the good example, which is what I try to be here, although teenagers shouldn't be here, but to be self-empowered, accountable, and regulating is what we can teach our future generations. Yes, and it's very easy for me to say. You can be your social engagement nervous system as you interact with those who will present to you oh, conceitedness and everything and more, because this feels right. Thank you, Jesus. And then Stephen Porges and determined, and all of them, because the reality, once more, you don't pick to be biologically rude. That's your 3-year-old. So the minute that I treat you with shame, you were already treated like that. Me treating you with respect is the one thing you didn't get treated with. And your way of responding to my cue of safety and me treating you with respect, not an indication of me missing out on something. No, you are missing out on noticing I don't want to be treated with respect by a human being. Okay, so the people who don't recognize that they're driven by fear are the very same ones who are using their little fight responses and following people who tell them not to go, for example, to therapy, and to disregard their child parts and stuff like that. So every voice is there for a reason. I'm here to say, be yourself with integrity, mindfully, spiritually, with flaws, imperfections. We get practices and skills so that you can be that best version of yourself, and empowered feminine and masculine. So we'll be back again with more in a little bit, some stories, and we might have a couple more episodes. In the meantime, thanks for stopping by. Like, share, and subscribe if you want to. It'll help the channel grow, and see you again later.